everyone. This session will be held majority in English. My name is Aisha Sabuncu. I'm the co-founder of Impact Hub Istanbul, part of the larger Impact Hub network, world's largest social innovation platform. I have been listening into majority of the panel since yesterday, and I'm happy to see that the topic of impact is being covered in multiple fronts with important emphasis being put on systems change. One of our close partner organizations, Ashoka, describes it really well. They say true systems change is the result of scaling social impact and not growing an organization. It is the result of letting go of control of an idea and enabling and encouraging others to join in and implement change. One of the important stakeholders that I believe are the most capable of implementing systems thinking in their work are social entrepreneurs. They not only embrace systems thinking, but also are capable of scaling their impact in an exponential way. As you might have heard in other sessions as well, our goal year for achieving the SDGs is quite near, almost 9 years away, and our progress is nowhere near where it needs to be. So solutions that drive exponential impact, along with embracing systems thinking and creative, effective stakeholder collaboration seems to be our magic formula. Today, in our Scaling Entrepreneurial Solutions for the SDGs panel, we will hear from 3 examples that have come up with Marvel entrepreneurial solutions. Through utilizing this magic formula, they are making great moves towards scaling their impact. So our guests today, they also share a common story. They have all participated in Accelerate 2030, the world's largest impact accelerator initiated by Impact Hub and UNDP. In the next 40 to 45 minutes, we will chat about their journeys and hear lessons we can take away for scaling our own entrepreneurial solutions. So I would like to welcome our panelists, Duygu Yılmaz, co-founder of BioLive and CEO, Alejandro Ortega, co-founder and CEO of Sibo, Fauzal Rizki, partner of Sampangan. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Good to be here.
So I didn't want to create an introduction for you guys, and it would be great to hear from you in person. Can you summarize a little bit about your organizations and your purpose? And it would be great to hear for this special audience some things that we haven't heard before, maybe about your stories too. So maybe we can start with Alejandro and then go on to Fauzal and then Duygu.
Alrighty. Again, it's good to be here. Thank you very much for the space. It's always a pleasure to share a little bit of our story. Our story specifically starts with me and Daniela 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, finding out about one of the world's biggest problems, which was stated in just one phrase for us, which is what we're eating is killing us and is putting our life and this planet at risk. It was as simple as that. And then we took the decision to start. And part of the story that we usually don't tell lies in the fact that we actually decided to take action after my grandma passed away. And that day I decided to quit my job and start the journey for real and become an actual entrepreneur to put everything at risk. But that meant also to take action in a bigger level. So at that moment, we went from starting Costa Rica Insect Company with the purpose of solving malnutrition and food scarcity. And over the past 2 years, we have been able to scale up. And now the name of the company is Sibo, now headquartered in the Netherlands, in The Hague. And we still have operations in Costa Rica. What we do is actually to lead the industry to a sustainable future by creating innovative biomaterials so we can change the basis of production without waiting for consumer behavior to change. And the reason why we embrace the name of Sibo is because Sibo is the name of the main Costa Rican god who taught the native Costa Ricans how to use the natural resources in a responsible and sustainable way. So that's part of our story, is part of what we believe on, and is basically the things that we're trying to do within the food industry, not to fight it, but instead to embrace it and collaborate so we can create a better future.
Amazing. It's already exciting, starting from Costa Rica and then scaling it in the Netherlands and with different multiple products too, which is quite exciting. Thanks, Ale. And then Fauzal?
Hi, on my side, the story of Sampangan actually begins unofficially 5 years ago and officially 2 years ago, and I'll explain why. So it actually started with my dad. So he is a chemical engineer, have multiple international patents and technologies that he was doing while he was a lecturer and researcher in a university overseas. And then one day he decided to come back to Indonesia to try to scale up the technology that he has so that it have real tangible impact to the society. So that was 5 years ago, and that was about the same that I graduated, entered into the professional world. So I've always wanted to help in the very beginning, but then I realized that I don't really have anything yet at that moment. I don't have an experience, no knowledge, no network, not even access to funding. So I've started my career in banking 4 years, and then I got into a financial technology startups for multiple years. And my education background is actually computer science. But then one day, my dad asked me to join him in one of his projects, and that's when I visited the landfill. So that was the moment of epiphany that actually opened up my eyes, because when I was there, I saw for the first time a mountain of trash, literally a mountain of trash, 8 stories high and like over 50 plus hectares. And that just like blew my mind away. And to think that there is actually this problem that exists, but it's just not visible to everyday people, right? Because it's happening in the background. So that was like when I make a decision to, okay, I wanted to be part of this. And I want to make sure that the solutions that we have, that my dad created, can actually be implemented not just in Indonesia, but also globally. Something that I've come to realize when I actually joined as one of the finalists in Accelerate 2030. It's an eye-opening moment, like which I will share more about later. But Sampangan as a company, what we do is we convert waste, any kinds of waste, organic and inorganic, in landfills or in temporary like commercial areas. We convert them into sustainable materials, in which we use them again in multiple industries such as organic agriculture, construction, aquaculture, energy, and so many more. So we have this technology that are able to convert all of this kind of waste sustainably without creating any more additional pollution, and in a very low carbon and energy efficient way. So initially when I was doing this like 2 years ago, officially when we started the company, we thought that it's something that only relevant to Indonesia, in which, for a fact, we have a lot of challenges in terms of a lack of infrastructure. So the amount of waste that is created on the same day and the capability to process them is like very far off. The collection of waste from household into final landfill is only 45%. 55% of those actually leaks everywhere. Like it's being burnt, and it's not collected, or even worse, it's being thrown to the rivers and polluting the sea, right? And on top of that, the landfills, out of like 250 plus landfill in Indonesia, less than 10% have a proper facility, right? And this is just very, very worrying, and something needed to be done. And that's why we started. So for last year, after the Accelerate 2030 program, we managed to secure a pilot project with the government. So we started off with like a 20 tons per day processing capability, and now we're scaling up to 200 to 450 tons per day. So I think those are like some of the interesting things that has been happening, and the difference between us before Accelerate 2030 and then after, because we realized that it's not something that is small in scale. It's something that is relevant not just to Indonesia, but also other parts of the world. And I'm super inspired by our comrades in the cohort, such as Ale as well as Dugu. Like they're doing like amazing stuff and like creating like really big impact, changing the world. So that's our story.
Yeah, definitely. It's always very incredibly exciting to hear the stories, all of you guys, and the progress you make, as you know, every time we hear you speak in various different occasions. So good to hear from you again. And have you been doing any work to go outside of Indonesia as well? I'm sure there are loads of opportunities, right?
Yes. So on our side, so this is the magic, not just a formula, but the magic of Accelerate 2030. Whereas like impact entrepreneurs all over the world gather in one place, exchange ideas, and apparently a lot of opportunities was created. So what happened was, like in the early days of last year, 2020, we were invited to Brazil from one of our friend in Accelerate 2030 cohort last year, which is Solo Bio, to partner up processing waste in Brazil and converting the waste into products such as activated carbon, organic fertilizer, organic pesticide that will be plugged into their existing operations. Solo Bio itself is an organic agriculture solution that have been deployed over 100,000 of hectares of farming areas in Brazil. So it's super exciting to have this kind of opportunity. Actually opens up something that I would say almost impossible to happen if I was not part of the Accelerate 20 program. So those are like some of the life-changing moments that actually happened for us.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Fazal. Duygucuğum, şimdi seninle devam edelim. Biraz senin de hikayeni dinleyebilir miyiz? BioLive'in hikayesini, nerelerde, nasıl başladı, nasıl gitti ve şimdi nasıl büyüyor? Çünkü bayağı bir geçtiğimiz bir sene, 1,5 sene içinde bayağı bir yol kat ettiniz. Sizin de hikayelerinizi dinlersek süper olur.
Merhabalar herkese. Bizim aslında hikayemiz bundan 7 yıl önce babamın kahvaltıda zeytin çekirdeği yutması ve benim zeytin çekirdeğinin içerisindeki antioksidanları araştırmamla başladı. İçerisinde ne var, insan vücuduna gerçekten iyi geliyor mu diye. Ve ortaklarımla beraber ilk hikayemiz böyle başladı. Zeytin çekirdeğinin içeriğindeki ana maddeden biyopolimer üretmeye başladık. Ve sonrasında bu fikri büyüterek bir üretim tesisi olan bir kuruluş haline geldik şu an. Biz zeytin çekirdeği atığından, yani pirinadan, ülkemizdeki zeytinyağı fabrikalarının atıklarından doğal biyopolimer üretiyoruz. Dünyada ilk olan bir polimer türü. Yeni bir organik bağ yapısı oluşturuyoruz. Fakat biz bunu B2C değil, B2B, otomotivden elektroniğe kadar birçok farklı sektör için en fazla ne kadar aslında doğal etki yaratarak içeriğinin ne kadar istenen değerleri sağlayabilecek kadar iyi bir malzeme ürünü oluşturuyoruz ve her müşteri sektörü için ayrı Ar-Ge çalışmaları yapıyoruz. Bayülü aslında ilk başta bu fikirle başladı ama şu an kendi içerisinde birçok kabuk atıklarından Ar-Ge'ler yapan, yeni patent başvuruları yapan, kenevir lifinden otomotiv malzemesi üretmeye başlayan bir girişim haline geldi. Aslında hayatımızın her alanında, yani biz plastikle başladık ama şu an vegan deri de üretmeye başladık. Hedeflerimizde iplikten ipliğe dönüştürülüp kumaşa, birçok malzemenin kullanıldığı alanda o yaşam döngülerini daha olumlu bir şekilde etkileyebilecek çok daha bilinçli malzeme üretimi üzerine çalışıyoruz. Ayrıca pandemi esnasında geçtiğimiz son 1 yıl içerisinde yeni bir buluşumuz oldu. Bizi çok heyecanlandırıyor. Bu da farklı bitkisel atıklardan ve organik yağ atıklarından üretilen bitkisel deri buluşu. Şu an yeni ürünün aslında lansmanı yapılacak hazırlıkları ama 1 yılda satış kapasitesi doldu. Şu an ön taleplerle çok daha hızlı yayılmaya başladı. Türkiye'de de çok önde gelen firmalar, globalde de önde gelen firmalarla Ar-Ge çalışmalarımız başladı. Aslında ana hikayemiz tamamen sürdürülebilir malzemeler üzerine. Fakat biz bu süreçte şunu fark ettik. Sadece bir malzemenin trend olup satılması değil, inanılmaz fazla bilgi kirliliği var. Yani bugün kompostlanabilir bir malzeme aldığınızda, ya içerikli bir malzeme aldığınızda sadece bu trend diye insanların almasını da engellemeye çalışıyoruz. Kendi müşterilerimize de onlara gerçekten sosyal etkide, olumlu etki veremeyeceğimiz kısımda işbirliği içerisine girmiyoruz. Bizim için en önemli olan şey bu karbon döngüsünü en iyi, en doğru şekilde etkileyebilecek ürünler üzerine yoğunlaşmak. Biz doğrudan kullanan plastik değil, defalarca kullanılabilen plastikler üzerine çalışıyoruz ki daha da fazla etkimiz oluşsun. Aslında bununla ilgili bir sosyal bilinç oluşturarak ilerlemeye çalışıyoruz. Tüketici alışkanlıklarını da değiştirmeye çalışıyoruz. Bir noktada aktivist bir tarafımız varken bir noktada da Ar-Ge'yi aslında tamamlıyoruz. Bu şekilde çok heyecanlı bir iş yaptığımızı düşünüyorum ve çok mutluyum. Burada tekrardan arkadaşlarımı gördüğüm için de çok mutluyum. Onlarla çok güzel bir program geçirdik ve aynı sosyal bilinçteki birçok şirketin bir araya gelip birbirine de çok katkısı oldu. Burada olmaktan çok mutluyum.
Aslında çok güzel bir şey söyledin. Hem bir yandan aktivist bir tarafımız var hem de bir yandan Ar-Ge yaparak yeni teknolojiler geliştirmeye çalışıyoruz dedin. Tam işte bu sosyal girişimcinin aslında o yaratmaya çalıştığı dengeyi anlatıyor. Çok teşekkürler Duygu. Ben şimdi Alejandro'ya geçmek istiyorum yeniden ikinci sorumla. Alejandro, my next question would be to you and to other panelists as well. Something that actually relates to Accelerate, which is what does scaling impact mean to you and to your organization? And I know that this is the slogan of Accelerate 2030 and means a lot to all of you guys, not just the program, but scaling in different ways with different products or different geographies. So it would be great if you can elaborate a little bit.
For me, the beginning meant something different than it means today, completely. At that point, it was a matter of getting the company to run in different countries. And it was the kind of like the typical business perspective. Being from a business background, you're thinking about, scaling sales, scaling markets, getting access to other type of networks and channels. But it was just way bigger than that. I think when we were discussing in Accelerate 2030, the scaling impact, it was not about just growth, linear growth. It was an actual kind of expansion of the business model to cover more ground, to cover more areas, SDGs, and to impact even more people surrounding us. It was a matter of thinking about, instead of thinking just about the end user, was about thinking about the stakeholders, all the stakeholders around. And that is something that changed completely. Our business model in the past years, just because of Accelerate 2030 and COVID-19, changed from having an option to be more social towards making our farming program completely social. So now our insect farming program, supported by our company, but is run by women and families in rural areas of Costa Rica, which we plan to scale to other countries. And this is the core of the business model. It starts from the bottom, from having people more engaged with just insects as another type of food. Like any farmer in the world is related to any type of plant, but now we're trying to engage it with insects. And then the other part is, when we're thinking about the products, it's not about what is going to be the most profitable product. It's going to be about what is the product that makes the biggest change. And I think that summarizes everything related to impact or scaling impact. Is about making real change. At the end of the day, that's something that we are pursuing. And thanks to Accelerate 2030, I think that change went from being, again, linear to being exponential, to have a domino effect, just like Faisal was mentioning, where we all were planning on collaboration opportunities, open up different perspectives, different challenges, and those challenges then became new business opportunities. And that's basically what we are happy of being part of Accelerate 2030. And well, now for our company, the next steps are getting access. Well, we're getting access to Europe, but also during these challenges this past year and now with the current lockdown measures, it was a matter of how can we keep scaling or making that change, even though we have these challenges. And there are always ways. The things are about thinking about the stakeholder again, going back to the books and to the drafting everything. And that's how we have found new ways and new products in this process. Now we are focusing in a separation process of the insect biocomponents, which is something that we didn't think from day one. And this is more functional. It provides better usability. And thanks to this, we can create alternative proteins or biopolymers, all with the same process.
Amazing. So you're thinking about scaling, but at the same time, you're rethinking your business model as well to see what type of things you can, what other products you can actually come up with, because due to the nature of what's going around the world. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, it's basically about, it's constant change. That expansion needs constant change, because if you think about just scaling the typical business model that you have from day one, then you're not going to be able to make the change. If the world is changing and expanding, so should we.
Definitely. Great ending. What about you, Faisal? What does scaling impact mean for you?
I totally agree with what Ali is saying about the need to be able to adapt to changing environments, as well as always keep on rethinking the business models that we have and try to scale up our operations, as well as the impact that we have with our stakeholders. For Sampangan, we're looking at it in several categories. So I think the first one is the waste ecosystem itself. So in Indonesia, there's a lot of infrastructure challenges and there's a lot of fragmentation between players inside that is providing solution in the waste ecosystem itself, right? So impact for us means how can we become the catalyst of change or become the platform that are able to not just scale what our technology and our operations, but also scale collaborations across the stakeholders that we have in the waste value chain, be it the waste startups that's available across the value chain of waste transportation, recycling, upcycling community, new materials, etc. Because we are looking at it as a whole interconnected systems, and we're just playing a part of it. And for us to make a tangible change in solving the waste crisis, we can never do it alone. It has to be done via collaboration. So those are the things that has always been our core values in our operations, in which we're always welcome to get other people to be part of the projects that we're in. So the one that is most interesting that is happening very recently is that we are working together to solve both B2C and B2B waste together via a digital platform. So this digital platform have 100+ million users. They're super app basically, right? They have both the B2C users as well as B2B users, especially food restaurants. So we managed to create a model where we can try to promote behavioral change by incentivizing app users to put in the recyclable waste. Basically, all of the waste. They get money from and rewards from the recycled materials. The residual waste that they normally throw away, we are able to process them because we have the technology to do so. Right. On a second hand, like this food delivery platform have cloud kitchens, where in one single cloud kitchens have like 20 to 30 brands in one place, creating a lot of food waste. So we work together with this platform to upcycle what can be upcycled, and residual waste we convert into activated carbon for different industries. So this is a very interesting pilot that we're actually super looking forward to scale, not just in Asia, if it's possible, other parts of the world. So that's one part. And the other part is in the context of value chain, so or products. So in the COVID-19, like there's a rise of medical waste that is happening. We saw an opportunity to convert landfill waste, and we convert them into biodisinfectants to help fight COVID-19 with the governments. So throughout 2020, we've distributed over 400,000 liters of biodisinfectant to help fight COVID-19 in one of the city there. So we see that it's important to, number one, scale the operations that we have, like from just like 20 tons per day to possibly thousands of tons per day, not just via ourselves, but via partnership and collaboration with other players. Number two is to expand through the value chain, not just for in our side, not just in landfills, but also up to recycling as well as waste collection, or even better, new materials and reverse logistics to address a problem as a whole system, and expand into a new segment on the circular economy side on the downstream. So what we are doing now is just in agriculture, organic agriculture, and we expanded into healthcare with the biodisinfectant. But currently we're also looking into opportunities of creating new building materials from landfill waste, creating a prefabricated and safer and stronger building materials, and more. And lastly, of course, the geographical scaling up. So these are all the things that I learned in Accelerate 2030, learning about system thinking, learning about resiliency, and the partnership and connection that was happened throughout the program that really help us in changing the way we think about problems, about impact, and also about sustainability. And as well as the connections that is required for us to scale outside of Indonesia, like the one that we're doing with Sulawesi in Brazil. And all of these are all happening because of Accelerate 2030. So yeah, that's our story on that part.
Amazing. You touched upon a good point, your first point about collaboration and stakeholders, which is quite essential in creating that exponential impact. And Alejandro, you have a bunch of stakeholders as well, maybe not as much as Fauzal that needs to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that really quickly too, because in various different countries, depending on culture and how they're used to that impact environment and working collaboratively, that dynamic changes. So could you touch a little bit about like how that collaboration is moving forward for you? Is it difficult, or have there been any instances that has been very challenging for you?
There's plenty of war story behind it, right? Because we talk to so many people. But then when we face a lot of rejections or even like bad intentions in a lot of ways, because basically we are fighting against a Goliath industry where people would rather just pick up the waste and just simply throw them away in landfills. Or they would use incinerator technology to just burn the waste away and turn them into ashes. So we're bringing in a new set of thinking, a new set of technology and perspective on how we could do this instead. And it's treated as a threat to the existing players in the industry. So, but throughout, I think what happened was because of the intention that is right, we just got connected to the right people as well over time. Because our understanding about the systems and the stakeholders between the whole industry, we also understand that every people have different motivations. Every people have different fears and different biases. So when we go into conversations, we don't go in pitching about the technology or these are the features that we could do. We go in and start conversation to understand where they're coming from, what they want to achieve. And from that, identifying the possible collaboration point. So I think, again, this is also one of the things that we learned in Accelerate 2030 as well. And this has working really well for us in terms of like being able to find mission-aligned organizations and companies to be working with together. And because we have this kind of mindset and perspective of looking things, once we found the right person and right organization, it's just so easy to click and things just move really, really fast.
Amazing. Those were some great lessons as well for the listeners out there. Alejandro, do you have any additions to what Faisal said?
Well, definitely is well said, and how we say it in our company and everything that we do is basically finding this common north, that common road that we are all riding, and it's basically the ones that are going the same way. Those are the ones who you feel comfortable working with, sharing ideas. It's a shared purpose at the end of the day, and that's, I think, in specifically our cohort of Accelerate 2030 was such a smooth transition and such a wonderful collaboration that we did during the struggles that we were facing, because it was not just a week where we could just relax and meet new people. And it was actually hard work that we were doing every single day, preparing for investors, preparing to meet partners. And during that type of struggle and our fears and our weaknesses, we found people who were playing in common ground who could help us in different ways. And that's how we scale up as leaders and as a team ourselves. But that side of working with stakeholders to get in a line into this, because they are not, most of them, entrepreneurs. So some of them don't understand what is impact, what is the type of change that we need to do. And particularly us in Costa Rica, we had to deal with two big stakeholders, which were the government in Costa Rica that upsells like an innovative place aligned with sustainability. You would say the government is all around supporting that. And then we have the farmers that you would say, well, Costa Rica is one of the top pesticide consumers in the world. So the farmers are going to hate insects. It was completely the opposite. The farmers were happy to collaborate. The government, we're still dealing with them in order to change the law, but trying to convince everybody. And with the farmers, I asked them, because I was surprised why they were so engaged into this. And actually, just one farmer changed my opinion about everything with just one phrase. He said, well, the land has given us a lot. Now it's for us time to give it back. It was as simple as that.
Amazing. Thanks a lot. Duygucuğum, seninle devam edelim. Hem etkinin ölçeklenmesinin sizin için ne anlama geldiğini merak ediyorum. Hem de bu noktada hikayenizin birçok noktasında aslında birçok paydaşla çalıştınız, çalışma zorlukları oldu, çok efektif partnerler oldu. Biraz da bunları da açabilirsen çok güzel olur. Hem etkinin ölçeklenmesinden bahsedersen.
Tamamdır. Biz aslında bugüne kadar 70'e yakın, yani 70 küsur tane farklı müşteriyle farklı Ar-Ge çalışmaları yaptık. Ve bu süreç bizim için kendi yaptığımız ürünü tanımamızı en iyi sağlayan süreçti. Bazı projeler olumsuz oldu. Yani işte her ürüne uyumlu olmayabildi. Bazılarında daha sosyal etkisi yüksek bir ürün haline gelebildi. Bazısında maliyet problemi oldu gibi. Ama bu süreçte bütün bu müşterileri hani bizim artık kendi portföyümüzdeki paydaşlar haline geldi ve farklı ürünler üzerine en sosyal etkisi yüksek hangi ürünü çıkartabiliriz diye Ar-Ge'ler yaptık. Ve bu süreçte şunu fark ettik. Özellikle Avrupa'ya ihracat yapan firmaların oradaki yönetmelikten dolayı gerçekten artık biyo katkılı ve biyo bozulur plastik kullanma zorunluluğunu bu noktada fark etmiş olduk. Bunun içerisine giren fiyat politikaları, hükümet politikaları, bir dolu farklı bilgilerle aslında donanmamızı bizim müşterilerle olan ilişkimiz sağladı. Fakat burada inanılmaz bir şekilde malzemeyle ilgili yönetmelikleri de takip etmeniz gerekiyor. 2016 yılında kullanat plastikleri tamamen yasaklanacağı bazı bölgeler vardı ve biz burada aslında bazı müşterilerimize bunu anlatmakta zorluk çekebiliyorduk ve şu an o yönetmelik geldi. Neden biz B2C, yani kullanat ürün üretmiyoruz da doğrudan tekrar kullanılabilir plastiklerin üzerine gittiğimiz şimdi daha netleşmiş oldu aslında. Çünkü en büyük problem şu, şimdi doğrudan malzeme ürettiğimiz için bütün bunlarla ilgili trendleri ve haberleri ve ölçümleri takip edebiliyoruz. Ama ülkemizde algı yeni oluşmaya başlıyor bunlarla ilgili. Bu anlam karmaşası içerisinde doğru bilgiyi aktarmak bazen zor olabiliyor. Plastikle ilgili özellikle kompostlanabilir, gübrelenebilir, işte biyobozunurlar ayrı, enzimatik fermentasyonla yani bir tesiste bozulan plastik ayrı. Şimdi bunların kodları bazen çok kafa karıştırabiliyor müşteriler için ve bazen sosyal etki sebebiyet veren, koruyan bir ürünü aldığınızda aslında plastikten daha da büyük zarar verdiğiniz kısımlar olabiliyor. Yani biz plastik çok zararlı diyoruz, evet, ama bazen de onların üretim prosesleri daha da zararlı olabiliyor. Yani dünyada bu kadar açlık varken gıdayı plastiğe çevirmek çok da mantıklı değil. Ya da oradaki iş modeliniz çok önemli. O atığa ulaşırken daha fazla karbon salımı sağlıyorsanız, yani lojistikle atığa çok yakın değilseniz, yine yaptığınız ürünün sosyal etkisi aslında çok da önem arz etmiyor. O yüzden biz bu süreçte paydaşlarımızla bu yaşam döngüleri üzerine çalışmaya başladık. Bu bize ne sağladı? Şimdi yeni tesiste, ya önceden laboratuvarda üretip satıyorduk. Yeni tesiste prosesimizi çok kısa tutalım. Enerji daha az harcayalım. Gerekiyorsa enerjiyi doğal yollardan üretmeye çalışalım. Güneş paneli kuralım. Çıkan atığımızı hangi sektörde değerlendirebiliriz? Ne çıkıyor? Bu atık mı? Bu nerede kullanılıyor? İnşaatta mı? Şimdi mesela biz çıkan atığımızı artık inşaat firmalarında kullanmaya başlatacağız. Yani her yönden kimse gelip bizim iç prosesimizi denetlemiyor şu an. Ama 2030 sürdürülebilir kalkınma hedefleri doğrultusunda yavaş yavaş denetlenmeye başlayacak firmalar. Ve bu kurguyu ne kadar önce yaparsak o kadar faydalı diye düşünüyoruz. Fakat bu bilgilerin hepsi, bu bilincin hepsi Accelerator 2030 programına dahil olduktan sonra bize ulaşmaya başladı. Çünkü biz teknik bir ekibiz. Ürün içeriğini çok iyi biliyoruz ama o etki ölçümleri, hangisi daha iyi ve hangi alana yönelmeliyiz, nerede daha fazla etki sağlayabiliriz, bunu programdan sonra biz öğrendik. Ve gerçekten şirketimizin vizyonu, misyonu, her şey değişti bundan sonra. Ve globalde yapılan işleri daha iyi takip etmeye, daha iyi ayrışmaya çalıştık. Artık daha profesyonel raporlar vermeye başladık müşterilerimize. Birçok anlamda çok daha olumlu etki oldu bizim için. O yüzden programın içerisine dahil olduğumuz için de tekrar çok çok teşekkür ediyorum. Bence BioLive'in birçok anlamda büyümesini kesinlikle bu program sağladı.
Çok güzel. Biz de sizin büyümenizi izlemekten keyif alıyoruz. Hepinizin için aynı şey geçerli. So my last question to you guys are somewhat involves giving out lessons maybe or some stories, war stories like Fazal mentioned. When you think about your scaling journey or kind of entrepreneurial journey, what was the most unexpected or exciting milestone that switched everything around? Again, we can start with Alejandro.
Well, for us, it was a couple of points. One bad and the other one good. Basically, one was, well, first and all, we have had a lot of challenges in the process. One of them being the death of all of our insects early on. And that point was actually a boost, a point where we said, well, we're going all in or we quit right here. So we decided to go all in. And just this past year, it was a couple of days ago, a year ago, basically, we were finally granted for the Dutch startup visa. So we were supposed to be traveling, scaling up the company from, well, early on in 2020. And then that was a really game changer for us because we could continue with the development of the technology. But then the borders closed, so we had to change and rethink everything. We were with our bags packed for 6 months in Costa Rica. Our houses became laboratories. We then tried to iterate with everything that we had because we couldn't export a lot of the materials that we had. We couldn't continue with some of the developments. So we had to rethink everything. That's when we rethink towards our business model, the base of production and the insect farming program, which we scaled into a national level with partners like Impact Hub back in Costa Rica, like other cooperatives, universities, and other people who we wouldn't think would be able to collaborate in that end. Well, we were able to do that, and that changed our production, our business model, and everything. And then just last year, at the end of November, we were able to finally get here into the Netherlands. And now we are more ready than we would be a year ago, and that allowed us to rethink everything, improve our business model, help more people, and actually scale for good, not only scale.
Amazing. So it ended up being a good thing for you.
It's a matter of, I don't know, my family usually tells us that, well, that's the way it was supposed to happen. I don't think that's how it is. I think it's a matter of making the best out of what's happening and looking at it in a positive perspective, but getting to work at the end of the day is about taking action instead of just waiting for destiny to come in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Super. What about you, Fazal?
On our side, I think the one that really changed everything around that is super unexpected is actually us being selected to be one of the finalists that went to Accelerate 2030. I mean, like, if there's one thing that I think is like really game changing, that is it. Because of that opportunity, it really changes everything. We look at our technology, the way we look at our business model, the connections that was made. For example, like me and Ali, like although we like at that time maybe like 12 hours apart, like we were just like having a call, like him in early morning and I'll be like around 1 a.m. in Jakarta, exchanging thoughts about the problems that we're facing now, and like exploring new ideas and solutions is just mind-blowing. And also Duygu, who like when we met in Geneva, she can't really speak English, but then she really tried to speak and understand English. And looking at the work that she's done in Turkey, it's just like super inspiring. And it's like, okay, like we are part of this like one tribe of change makers. Like we need to be able to do something that is super big, right? And then, so those mindset really changes everything. So that's on our side, the first thing. And number two is because of the program, like we realized that it's not just about the technology that we have. It's also about the business models and the value that is created to the stakeholders that we are engaged with. So this is something that is learned through the program. By having that understanding, and I think most importantly, acceptance that our business model of waste processing as a service is not easy, it's not going to work in the short term, but it will in the medium and long term. We accepted that we need to do something to change. We need to do something to survive. So that's when my dad, Dr. Ishani, is also our Chief Sciences Officer, managed to explore new problems and new solutions. Like we convert wastewater from landfills, the one that people don't even want to go near to because it's so smelly, and convert that into biodisinfectant. So out of accident, actually, which is like even more crazier. And the result of this is that our revenue grew from like almost, I think, 5x of what we started in 2019 and ending 5x stronger by the end of 2020, which is during the pandemic year, which is insane. And that kinds of thinking and methodology that we learned over in Accelerate 2030 and the people that we are connected to through the program are life-changing for us. So I think that's from Sampangan.
Amazing. Thanks for the shout out as well to Duygu. Duygucuğum, senin ölçeklenme yolculuğunu düşündüğümüzde senin için en beklenmedik, en heyecanlı dönüm noktası neydi?
Aslında bizim en büyük problemimiz şuydu temelinde, geçmişte. Biz evde bir laboratuvar kurarak başladık. Sonrasında ilk yatırım aldığımızda kendi laboratuvarımızı kurduk. Fakat laboratuvarda ürettiğimiz ürün Ar-Ge çalışmalar için yeterli gelmemeye başlamıştı ve laboratuvarı kendimiz bir atölyeye çevirmiştik 3 kurucu ortak. Ve bu süreçte laboratuvarda yaptığımız üretimle küçük satışlar yapan bir şirkettik. Geçen yıl programa gittiğimde de henüz yatırım almamış ve laboratuvardan satış yapmaya devam ediyorduk. Orada aldığımız eğitimlerde bir lisanslamada farklı ülkelerde nasıl teknolojiyi yayabiliriz kısmı. İkincisi de ölçeklenerek büyüme kısmını eğitimlerde çok iyi öğrenmemiz sağlandı. Bunun dönüşünde de yeni aldığımız yatırım turunda şöyle bir karar verdik. Bir anda çok büyük tesisin kurulmasını beklemek yerine küçük bir tesisle başlayalım ve bu tesis hem orada bizim o optimizasyon sürecimizi de daha da hızlandıracak bir süreç. Çünkü bir deneme yanılma yöntemine 3 yıl beklemeniz var. Bir de 1. yılın sonunda evet bu tesis okeydir, bunun daha büyük tonajına çıkabiliriz gibi bir fikir yürütme şansımız oldu. Bu anlamda bize çok ciddi bir katkısı oldu ve biz satışlarımızı hiç durdurmadan daha da böyle ölçeklenerek, arttırarak devam etmemiz sağlandı. Bu kısımda aldığımız bilgiler sayesinde kesinlikle bu bilince geldik ve oluşturduğumuz KPI'lerle hem ekip içerisinde bizim iş dağılımlarımız belirlendi, daha netleşti. Herkes kendi alana yoğunlaşmaya başladı ve gerçekten öncesinde bu bilinç bende yoktu. Lider olarak da yoktu. Herkes aynı işe bakmaya çalışıyordu ve hem yoğunluğumuz daha fazlaydı hem de verim düşüktü. Kendi içerimizde verimimizi arttırıcı bir etki oldu. Büyük bir dönüm noktası da Türkiye'de aslında yatırım aldığımız grup sayesinde oldu. Çünkü hem bir endüstri firması, bir fabrikası olan firmadan yatırım alıp onların fabrikasında bir yer açmamız bizim hiç o tecrübe etmediğimiz alanda onların deneyimleriyle daha da hızlı büyümemiz sağlanıyor şu an. İkinci kısımda Türkiye'nin aslında böyle bilinen 12 tane iş kadının beni desteklemesi, biraz da böyle kadın kısmını da aslında çoğalttı şirkette, o bilinç de değişti ve diğer anlamda sosyal anlamda bahsettiğim gibi doğru ürüne yoğunlaşmamız kesinlikle o eğitimler sayesinde sağlandı ve ben şu an çok daha heyecanlıyım. Malzemeyle ilgili birçok farklı Ar-Ge çalışmamız ve fikrimiz var. Belki de artık birçok sektöre daha hızlı yayılmamız sağlanacak. Bir de hiç ummadığımız bir şey oldu. Bir müşterimiz, yani aslında biz bir müşterimize sürdürülebilir tekstil ürünleri üretiyorduk. Askı, etiket, kliks dediğimiz. Çünkü gün içerisinde bir dolu askı aslında kırılıyor, plastik atık çıkıyor. Kıyafetlerin etiketleri inanılmaz çok plastik atına sebep veriyor. Ama biz bu sektörü hiç düşünmemiştik. Hep gıda ambalajlama, elektronik otomotive yoğunlaşmıştık. Ve sonra bu alanda ciddi anlamda bu atığı fark edip daha da yoğunlaştık. Ve bu müşterimizle ortak biz vegan deri buluşu gerçekleştirdik. Sonuçta 5 kişilik bir ekip her şeye yetişemezken onların kendi 10 kişilik ekibi de bize dahil oluyor o projelerde ve çok daha hızlı buluşlar yapabiliyorsunuz. Ortak paydaşta gittiğiniz zaman farklı fikirler ortaya çıkıyor. Sonra başka firmalar da bize Ar-Ge projeleriyle gelmeye başladı. Bu bizi inanılmaz mutlu ediyor ve Fozan'ın da bahsettiği gibi kendi içimizdeki o işbirlikleri, bu 1,5 yıllık süreçte hiç kopmadan sürekli iletişimimizin devam etmesi, orada o kadar farklı bir sinerji vardı ki hepimizin arasında. Çünkü herkes ciddi anlamda bir sosyal bilinçte oradaydı ve çok güzel fikirlerle birbirimizi hep böyle destekleyerek devam ediyoruz. Bence en önemli dönüm noktaları bunlar oldu.
Vallahi çok güzel şeyler söyledin. Hangi birini böyle alıp da devam ettirsen bilemedim gerçekten ama birkaç tane ortak noktanız var. Onları ortaya çıkarmak istiyorum. Özellikle bu Ar-Ge odaklı kısımdan bahsederken birçok aslında Ar-Ge odaklı iş yapan, ürün veya servis geliştiren sosyal girişimler veya girişimlerde şöyle bir sorun var. O kadar uzun dönemli ki vakit alıyor ve ürünü ortaya çıkaramıyorsun. Aslında senin de Fazlal'ın da farklı şekilde pivot ederek denedikleri yöntemler sizin bir şekilde modelinizi ortaya çıkarmayı sağlamış. Bu da bence çok önemli bir ders. Gerçekten öyle yapılması lazım aslında. Birçok Ar-Ge odaklı girişimin öğrenmesi gereken bir şey büyük ihtimalle. Ki belki büyük ihtimalle de yolda öğreniyor diye düşünüyorum.
Bence ya evet, yolda öğreniliyor. Bir de şu var. Ulaşmak istediğiniz bütünde çok büyük bir nokta var. Direkt oraya baktığınız zaman alttaki o noktaları kaçırıyorsunuz. Bir yerden başlayalım, yavaş yavaş buna gideriz dediğinizde o kadar çok daha hızlı ve daha farklı fikirler oluşmaya başlıyor ki. Yani mesela sektördeki açıkları fark etmeye başladık. Örneğin otomotivde malzeme türünün ne tür bir malzeme isteniyor? Daha hafif bir malzeme. O zaman biz daha hafif malzemeyi hangi atıktan elde edebiliriz? Yani biraz daha o sürece başlayınca karşılaştığımız problemler sürekli size yeni fikirlerle gelmeye başlıyor. Bakış açısıyla çok alakalı bence.
Kesinlikle ve doğru paydaşlar. Biraz da ona da dokundunuz. Yatırımcı olsun, müşteriler olsun veya farklı şekilde ortaklık yaptığınız kurumlar olsun. Bu da inanılmaz önemli. Evet, maalesef we've come to the end of our panel, unfortunately. I wish I could talk to you more and more, but this is the end. Thank you so much for coming and joining us and sharing your stories. Accelerate 2030 will be conducted in 25 countries this year, including Turkey. And we cannot wait to meet the new generation of scaling entrepreneurs and be a part of their journeys. You can follow Accelerate and the developments from turkey.accelerate2030.net. Thank you again, Alejandro, Fazal, and Duygu.
Thank you.